I'm Michael Bungay-Stenya. This is Change Signal, the podcast where we cut through the blather and the BS and the noise to find the good stuff that works in change management. Now, let's pretend for a moment we're in a therapy session. This is a verbal Rorschach test. I'm going to say a word. You get to tell me how you feel about it. So here's the word, meeting. Now, I don't know for sure, but I am guessing that not many of you are saying, "Ooh, fabulous, I love them. Not enough of them. Such a good use of my one wild and precious life." I mean, sure, there are some good meetings, but not many. Whether you're leading change or not, guaranteed some part of your role is to find ways to engage and unlock and influence. And wouldn't it be nice if there were some alternatives to the usual?
At every level, from how we think about the world, the myth we have about how the world works, to the way organization figures out how to hire people and create rules, down to what you do in your team and how you report out on your work, all of those things work with a different set of assumptions, which is primarily, let's break things into smaller and smaller parts and control them to get a particular result. The alternative to that is, how does the world order itself for free? How do you let go of control that's not productive? There's some control that's productive, but how do you deeply respect people and local solutions? Don't come in with answers because they're not going to fit the operating reality.
That's Keith McCandless, and Keith is the co-author with Henry Lipmanowitz of The Surprising Power of Liberating Structures. Now, I can't say I love that book's title, but I promise we'll explain what it means in the first few minutes of the show. I do, however, love that the book gives a range of alternative ways, new structures, for unlocking the best of people's contributions. This conversation with Keith is candid and practical and just a little bit snarky, which I love, by the way. We're digging into the power of simple structures and why complicated facilitation is overrated, the dance between freedom and accountability, and, profoundly, the surprising shift in which you see the world when you use some of these liberating structures. Keith, welcome. It is lovely to be in conversation with you.
Thanks, Michael.
Okay, let's get this clear right from the start. What is liberating structure exactly? The way I would put it, Keith, you'll have a better answer, is it's like they are 33, there may be more now, but in the book, 33 alternative facilitative structures that give people an opportunity to engage more deeply and bring the best of themselves to a conversation and to feel like they are part of a process, not having change done to them. And for an example, the 1, 2, 4 all process, which is like how you have people generate ideas, share ideas again, and then share them for a final time.
Yeah, so even that sounds kind of like a clunky process when you describe it. And so I think of them as this simple patterns. And you don't have to be a facilitator. You don't have to be charming, persuasive, or any of the things that typically we get associated with being a good facilitator.
Yeah.
You do have steps. There's structure. Every liberating structure has the same DNA. And they're minimum specifications. And what that means is a very small number of simple rules that must be respected,
right,
to get the results that are promised.
And here Keith is describing the 1, 2, 4 tool I mentioned earlier.
And there are things like start this conversation with only think for yourself for 1 minute.
Right.
Then for 2 minutes, talk to one other person. 4 minutes in a foursome. Then share with the larger group anything that must be heard, not your whole list of blathering.
Yeah.
No, we don't want that. We want, what's the thing that arose, that popped into view in your conversation that must be heard by everyone? You know, if you've ever tried, well, let's open it up to everyone. It doesn't work very well because they don't have a chance to think. They haven't sifted and sorted ideas.
just to jump in, look, the facilitator geek in me is already loving this. A safe share, it's like a rehearsal before the bigger share. And the bigger share is also a condensation of what's most useful. It's both more intimate and more focused.
Is that a process? Kinda, to get all the best ideas. Learning how to do it after you've seen it done once, anyone can do it. So I don't like to call them facilitation methods even. They're just the simplest patterns that each time you use them, it will be in a different context, on a different challenge.
Right.
And they'll be fresh every time. And people who don't see themselves as leaders or facilitators or anybody can pick it up and go, hey, I can do that, and my team or my group is a mess.
So there's something about if you're able to trust the process and follow the process, good stuff is going to happen. Because I understand what you're saying, which is as soon as you call it a facilitative technique, that's an invitation for anybody who goes, I'm not really a facilitator, to go, so this is probably not for me because, I don't have the things that a facilitator has. But in fact, it's a question of going, look, it's a pretty simple series of steps. And if you can follow those simple steps, actually something interesting is going to happen with you and the group.
And it's a pattern that's easily learned and it repeats. And I know that's true because there's no administrative, there's no organization, there's no backing for liberating structures. There's no university, no central office. And the work has spread across the world. The book's been translated into 9 languages. The work has been translated into 20 or 25. User groups formed all over the world where people took the initiative to teach each other, to be a guide on the side of each other to learn the work. All of that was organized out of the simplicity of the patterns.
Yeah.
Now, I want to call them methods too, because that's what we've been cut our teeth on.
Yeah.
But that's not what they are really.
Keith, will you teach me one of the liberating structures? I mean, there's 33. They range in complexity of ability to do. But if there was one liberating structure you wanted me and the people listening to this to know and perhaps go, well, I could give that a go, where would you start?
I'm going to start with the easier one. So it's called creative destruction,
okay,
where you imagine the worst result of your work. One person thinks about it.
Not even a bad result, but the worst result.
It's terribly frightening because everybody knows exactly how to do it. And because step 2 is, well, in what way, once you've got this list that you get from individual people and the pairs and then a group of 4, then the second part is a little harder. Well, how do we resemble any of those practices that generate the worst result? Well, I've been in tons of groups where say, well, we do all those things all the time.
Yeah.
I'm always like, okay. And then the third step in creative destruction is, well, just pick one of those that you have the discretion and authority to stop doing.
Right.
So it's very behavioral. And this is where the autonomy, what do you have that right now? You're respecting and trusting and encouraging this autonomous thing that's a collective responsibility as well. Like we don't want to do that. Obviously, it's the worst result. And so in that moment, what that little set of things does is create space for innovation.
Right.
Suddenly you've stopped these things that have been in your way of the things that would actually solve the problem.
Isn't this a great tool? I mean, not only does it identify issues in a safe way, but then it flips things so it invites people to then take responsibility for doing what they can to improve things. If you listen to my solo episode about the drama triangle, you'll see that this is a way of inviting people out of the victim mindset. So let's go to the dark side, which is you're offering a series of patterns that will create a different experience for people in the room, an opportunity to kind of invite in and unleash the power of the people who are in the room. Let's talk about the crappy usual experience people get. What are we trying to move away from? What do we get wrong typically in terms of how we bring people together?
Well, I'm going to be snarky. I don't know if that's a commonly used word for a minute, but very cynical.
I'm all there for it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Because
Snarky is a great word.
here's the big 5 ways that everybody learned. They're so instinctual. It's like water we swim in. We don't even know there's water there. And one is the presentation. Although we're having a conversation, it borders on a presentation. One person knows and the other are the unwashed, right? It's just, there's
Right.
no interaction, no momentum created. Even if it's a really good presenter, it's just one person shaping the future. The second one is the managed discussion. Let's hire a facilitator, and the leader and the facilitator work in cahoots to figure out what will be produced. So they already know the outcome. The next one, I'm going through all 5 quickly. Next one is let's give update. Let's do status report.
Yeah.
What's that about? If you say anything that the boss doesn't agree with, you're just naive. You've got to say things that sound like they're in alignment. The next one is brainstorming.
A career limiting move.
Yeah. The next one is let's get a few smart people from wherever and they'll talk about possibilities, but it has nothing to do with what's happening on that unit, the place where the problem or challenge exists. And last is let's be free. Let's have an open discussion, which is the place in which 2 or 3 people get in an argument and everyone else sits back and is amused. So that's my snarky, cynical, what we're trying to stop. And what that is the unwitting way in which we exclude people, the unwitting way in which we stifle ideas, creativity, and the unwitting way in which we over control. Even though that one is under control, really, the open discussion is under control. But that shows that once in a while we let a rip, we let people be free. Right? And that's all about
I get it.
Unwitting patterns that keep things how they are, keep us from being more adaptable, and keep our organizations incredibly brittle, very much ready to fall apart because there's no adaptability. We've created organizations that generate incredible amount of conformity.
If you're intrigued by the idea of liberating structures, well, option 1 is to go to the website, liberatingstructures.com. Option 2, go online and find user groups all over the world. And option 3, of course, is to pick up a copy of the book, which personally I find an invaluable manual. Okay, back to our conversation. So you've been delightfully snarky about those 5, but tell me why they're so reassuring, why people like to go there. You and I can poke holes here, but people love to come back to them. They're the go-to 5. Why do they have such a strong grip on us? Why are they so comfortable to use?
A few things are going on. One is they develop slowly over a long period of time where they've become habits, and they're good for stabilizing an organization once it's created. So I don't think anybody can really use those 5 when they're first starting up an organization.
Right.
It's more fluid than that. And whether they're using liberating structures or not, the way they're relating is more dynamic or even dynamical. The people are changing and the work they're doing is changing, and together they spin out something that could be stabilized. And so at that point, making that more efficient by breaking things into small parts and controlling them and setting up job descriptions and setting up this conformity, let's call it conformity, stabilizes something. And one of the liberating structures does a great job of describing, okay, there's that birth entrepreneurial phase. There's the maturity where you need to get all the value out of the thing, and that's where the conformity kind of helps.
Yeah.
But nothing stays stable. That becomes rigid and breaks easily. It's brittle. And so we have a phase is creative destruction. What are you going to stop? And how are you going to renew or recombine what it is you're doing in a way that brings back creativity and adaptability. So that, I think it's the desire to take the new thing and make it stable is one of the things. And we learn that it works.
Right.
Those 5 things work
Yeah.
to do that. And we're not attracted, we don't snap back to them from a more liberated approach because they're a good idea. They give us comfort. The stability that they have provided over time gives somebody comfort.
Right.
The people who may have started the thing. Another liberating structure is called, a principle is boost both autonomy and responsibility.
Uh-huh.
So in that very stable, conforming thing, your responsibilities are kind of stable, but kind of small, and your autonomy is shrinking even more.
Yeah.
And so what we're suggesting is you can be more wildly productive and adaptive and creative if you boost both of those at the same time, right? What strategy, what next step will bring more autonomy to each individual and more responsibility? So let's do that. Even if you're in a mature organization, that's going to shake it up. But there's more to it than that. There's over time, the things get deeply ingrained, these 5. And you can walk into a room and just know it's going to be like, well, we're going to have a presentation today. Right. And it's like, okay, I can relax now.
I'll sit back.
Yeah.
To pause a moment and reflect, I think these are really powerful guiding principles. The question I'd ask is, what needs to be true to bring both more autonomy and more responsibility to the people I'm seeking to serve in my organization? And knowing that, whatever the answer might be, what does that tell me about my approach to change and transformation? So, if I'm a change leader, Keith, coach me on moving away from these 5 familiar patterns and to potentially trying out one of the liberating structures. Like, I'm like, Keith, I hear you talking. I kind of get what you're saying about why meetings can suck. But man, what you're asking is like, you're asking me to give up control. You're giving me to give up status. You're inviting me into a place of uncertainty and ambiguity. There's a whole bunch of things my amygdala, my lizard brain is going, don't go there. So coach me to go there.
First thing that we try not to underestimate the depth of the challenge you face. So it's worse than you think it is, right? You think, oh, we've made some progress there.
That's beautiful. I love that.
It's much worse than it's far too late to be anything except worried. So first, steel yourself for we really need to try something different. Second thing, which is find your guide on the side. Somebody who's willing, that shares that view and will be there for you. I had Henry when we started, and he was perfect. He was tough on me. And I may have been a little tough on him too, because he had the same things. It's common. The problems, the habits, I've got them too. I can be snarky, but I could also critique myself in the equal measure. So find a guide on the side. Try the real simple liberating structures first.
Right.
And I've worked with CEOs of the biggest organizations you can imagine, and 13-year-old kids working on farm, raising their first farm animal. And it's exactly the same. Right. And with this guide on the side, you try a 1, 2, 4 all or a Troika Consulting. I'm just naming some structures that are very simple.
Yeah.
And there's some things you can notice. What kind of results do you get immediately? And it's the only reason they've spread all over the world is you all of a sudden notice that people come alive.
Right.
I was in a group. I had 150 or 200 product managers for one of the software companies you would know that starts with A. And they're in a room and we're doing this activity where they're reporting out to all. What are the things that everybody should know about? The reason that product managers are important. And I said, if you're feeling really strong, stand up on your chair and sing the answer. And the leader looked at me like, that's never going to happen. These product managers have never jumped out of their role.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, people started getting up on their chairs and belting out these things.
I love that.
And I was not surprised because I've seen it hundreds and hundreds of times. But the leader was like, who are these people? So once you try one, you need to notice some that's not subtle. But lots of times it'll just people who've never spoke or one of the first things I ever did, somebody came up to me in the group who was a person I didn't notice at all. It was a big group, but didn't notice at all. I said, thanks for the respect. Keith, I so appreciate being respected. And I didn't know what they meant. You asked me to think. You asked me to come up with an idea to address something I care about.
Yeah.
I've never given the time
to
actually think and talk about that.
And I would say, Keith, that, having been working with structures like this for 30 years, in that time, I've only ever had one group once refuse to do the thing that I wanted to do. And ironically, it was with the consultancy McKinsey, where the partner went, yeah, we don't do that stuff around here. And I was like, that says everything. That's partly the motivation for Change Signal is to go, look, there are alternative approaches to this world than the McKinsey approach. Yeah, that's wonderful. Keith, is there ever a moment when a top-down approach to change might work? Because so much of what you're talking about here is finding the middle. It's not even bottom-up. It's just kind of finding the people affected by the change and inviting them to find the solutions to shift from status quo to something different. Is there ever a time when the top-down thing you've seen work?
Well, it obviously works. Look at all this stuff around us. It's It works to create large-scale organizations that resist change. I think when we get into very, very highly chaotic situations, which we may be in some right now, there is something to the top-down approach to reducing the direct harm to people. In those places, like you think about a military or an emergency response or any number of things, you're not going to do a 1, 2, 4 all.
No.
You're going to try to minimize harm. So I think that's a great place. And then on the other end of the spectrum, the simplest things that everybody knows there's a best practice, but for whatever reason, it's not really working. I think you can use your control there too. But everything in between, which is, a lot.
Keith, what needs to be said that hasn't yet been said in this conversation between you and me?
What happens for you or me, and I recommend that you expand your repertoire of liberating structures. And some do this thing that I want to describe, the thing that hasn't been said. And it's you develop a deeper belief in people, a much deeper belief in people, more than they have for themselves.
Mm.
And to do the work, it's not really even empathy. It is empathy, but it's like confidence in groups. And now it's kind of like groups and people as a whole, they're kind of, we can't rely on that. But no, you can't. You develop a deep confidence in people. And that's what I want for you.
Mm.
I want more of that for me.
Mm-hmm.
I really want it for everyone. So that's why I'm doing the work.
That's brilliant. Keith, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you.
My pleasure completely. And we've got more conversation to have. Yeah. Thank you, Michael.
That last comment really chimed clear and true for me. I mean, what an unexpected gift you get from doing this work, developing a deeper confidence in people. That is no small thing. And thank you for your deep confidence in the podcast. I mean, if you enjoyed the episode, please do recommend it to a colleague. That is how we grow best, by word of mouth. I want other brilliant people like you listening to this podcast. And I hope you're subscribed to the weekly newsletter. You can sign up at thechangesignal.com. Thanks for doing the work. I'm glad you're here.